I'm going to be working on my client Alvaro. We just finished his back piece very recently. It's been how long, Alvaro? Like maybe a month?
Like a month.
We're just going to make some adjustments to the smoke in order to create a smoother transition between the bottom part and the top part, because it almost looks like there's two separate tattoos. So we want to make it look like it's one cohesive tattoo. You want to make sure that the client either has his arms crossed, they're closed like this. So make sure that you have him relax his arms, put them down, or just cross them completely. Whatever's more comfortable for you and also whatever's more comfortable for the client. For the voltage, I'm working with 8.7. 8.7 to 8.8 is what I've been using to get this entire tattoo done. So you want to kind of use the same voltage, especially with black and gray, so it all has the same finish. You want to use the same voltage. And I'm using the biggest needle that I generally use right now, which is, it's a 23 Magnum. And I'm just going to lightly graze over what's already there. So what I'm going to do is I'm dipping my black into my darkest tone. So I can get a very dark value, but I don't want it to be completely black. At least not yet. Black and gray, to me, is actually one of the hardest applications there is. Sometimes even more than color. Because it does require a very even pace for it to come out smooth. What helps me out is that I have a very strong artistic foundation and I'm very detail oriented. So even though my application is not the smoothest compared to, you know, some of the greatest black and gray artists out there, my tattoos look really cool just because of the foundation that I have in art. So right now I'm marking where the end of a transition is, which is going to be right here. This is going to be my darkest point, so I want to mark that just so I can build the shapes and then I can start working off of that. So essentially I'm putting my darkest tones and then I start building off the darker tone into lighter values. So now I can come from this area and then I can start transitioning out of that space. And this is going to take several passes. Because again, I'm not putting so much pressure into what I'm doing. If anything, I'm just lightly grazing the skin. That way I get a smooth application. And then I feel like this needs a stronger edge right here. So I'm going to work on that. So I'm going to turn the needle on the side. And I'm going to give this a stronger edge. Something a little bit more defined. Just like that. So I'm going to grab a light tone and then I'm going to start just grazing over that line so that I can darken it. Now in this part we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to create more depth into the space by starting to darken. From this line down, I'm going to darken and then I'm going to fade it out into this mass right here, which is going to be my lightest point. Okay, so essentially the goal for the adjustment in this tattoo is that I want the smoke to feel like it's coming out of the darkness. So I'm trying to blend my darkest points of the smoke into the darkest points of the tattoo that's underneath. If you guys want to know more about the black and gray wash setup that I use, you can check the previous video that I posted and it breaks down exactly the way that I set up my gray wash. So I'm going to start using my lighter tone on this side and I start pushing it into the darker value that I have already established. So you can go whichever way you want, as long as you're creating a smooth transition, it doesn't matter. But make sure you're thinking about what you're doing. Okay, now I want to create some sort of cast shadow from the line that's above into the bottom, considering that this is going to be lighter than the rest. So I'm going to use like a mid-tone and I'm going to pass right under that line, creating a cast shadow there. And then I can start building out from that line into my lighter tones. But that already defines the next shape for me. So now I can work from that line onto the left. So now that I have established the value for this space right here, I'm gonna start working backwards. So I'm going to define what's my lightest value here, and then I'm gonna start adding this value into the rest of the values that I already have. So I'm gonna start working backwards now. I'm gonna work from this way onto the right. There's really no right or wrong way of doing this. You just gotta find a system that works for you. And I'm going to work my way backwards again. So I'm gonna start with my lighter values. And then I'm going to start darkening midway. And make sure that you're building a pace when you're doing black and gray. Like, it may seem like I'm going kind of erratic, but I'm actually not. When I was figuring out black and gray, I used to count my strokes in order to get a rhythm. I don't do it anymore because it's kind of automatic, but I used to count like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, just to make sure that I had an even pace when I was doing this. The needle, when you're using a bigger needle, you're gonna cause more pain to your client. So one thing that you can do to help them out is make sure that the skin has plenty of lubrication, okay? So make sure there's plenty of Vaseline in the skin. That's going to help them out, and it's gonna make a big difference on the pain level. Okay, so that's looking very good. Now I'm going to start working from this side, and I'm going to start tying it into this side right here. Now I'm going to clean this line right here. I want it to be as even as it can be. I want to get a straight line here, or at least a smooth one anyways. And again, I have the corner of my needle lifted because I don't want too much of a hard edge right there. This part right here is going to be skin. I'm going to leave this light. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start working my way backwards as well. So I'm going to find my lightest point that's going to have color, and then I'm going to start working from the lighter point into my darker side. Okay, there's a big dip right here because of his scapula, so it's the needle's not going in as far, so I need to stick the needle out a bit so I can get the same effect. The good thing about black and gray is that you can add pigment, but you cannot take away. You can use that to your advantage, but you also have to be careful because whatever you add, you cannot remove later. So it can be a double-edged sword, but you can use it to your advantage. Okay, so I'm making some adjustments in this area. So I put some lidocaine on the client's skin just to help him out with the pain. We just need to lightly graze his skin and add a little more pigmentation to the area. So just lightly grazing over that area and making these adjustments. This area feels really open, so I'm going to give this part some sort of finish. That way it doesn't look so open like this. Okay, so now I'm gonna do the same thing that I did here. I'm gonna do on this upper line. I do want to create a cast shadow here to the lower part. I have be very careful because I don't want to make that a value that is way too dark. This actually has to be much lighter than this. So I'm working with a lighter value, but I'm using the same concept. Just very lightly working my way through. Being very careful not to make it too dark. And now I'm gonna connect this spot right here into my darkest point. I like where I'm at so far. Now I'm going to give these lines, the empty areas, I want to shape them up a little bit better. So I'm going to use a light tone and I'm going to start giving it the shape that I want. I'm going to clean out the edges. And now I'm going to start working on my lighter tones. Slightly darkening these spots. Want to make sure that I don't go too dark. I don't, like I've told you guys before, I don't have the smoothest black and gray that I've seen. Again, that is determined by your hand movement. But one thing that I have realized, and this is why I don't concern myself with it too much, is that there's a certain point in black and gray that after it heals, you know, over a few months, it looks exactly the same. It doesn't matter how smooth it is, it always kind of heals to the same look. So yeah, it does look better for a picture, that's for sure. But who cares, you know? What I care about is to give a good tattoo to my client. And if I can get the same result one way or the other, what's the point of taking longer to get a smoother look? So as long as it's smooth enough, I concentrate more on the actual drawing than the application of it. And that's just the way that I think about it. Obviously, this is something that is 100% debatable. I guess I have a more utilitarian point of view with it than other people. I'm going to add some values here. I want to darken the top part of the smoke a little bit because I do want to make, I do want to define it more than what it is right now. And I think it's also going to help the piece by having a darker value here, and it's also going to define that edge. So I'm going to go over this and just give it a darker value and then just work my way up from there. I want to clean that edge. So at this point, I'm cleaning everything that I've done so far, just to make sure that everything is nice and polished. So now I'm just taking my time using a smaller needle and just cleaning up all the edges and making sure it all looks really good. Okay guys, so I'm not gonna elongate the video because what I've done here is exactly the same thing that I'm going to do on the other side. So there's no point in making the video longer than it has to be. I hope that this video helps you out. If you have any questions, make sure that you leave them in the comments below. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and make sure you hit the notifications button. That way you're up to date with every video that I'm putting out. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to leave comments and I'll get to those comments as soon as I can to make sure that I either answer the questions or I can make other videos regarding your questions. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.